In the end, white space is all about breathing room and a rest for viewers' eyes. You can also think of it as a cushion around our composition, and it doesn't necessarily have to be white. It can be any color, and more importantly, it is blank space. So there's nothing there. It's devoid of an object, element, or even a pattern. Well, I take that back. Some patterns can be considered white space as well. But in reality, it is a cushion to rest the viewer's eyes. And in this lesson and in these notes today, I want to practice with you how we're going to divide up our composition. So far you've done thumbnails, we've talked about composition in our last lesson, and today we're going to talk about white space, and that's very much our process right now. And we might take this even further through the months that we're learning. So I'm going to use what you already know about, which is the rule of thirds, to help divide up our composition. And within this rule of thirds, I'm basically taking our design for our type composition, our faux calligraphy, and assigning that a unit of 1. And if I make that same unit to the left, to the right, bottom, top, and then in the other squares that make up this square, I now have a composition that's divided up into thirds. And I've centered everything. And if you can imagine all of this area as blank or as white space, I've now added in a good amount of cushion that not only emphasizes your incredible work, your finished work, but also gives the viewer time to cushion their eyes around your work. And it's also a nice frame around your work, so the presentation is there too. We're going to use around this border many ways to cut our piece. You're probably going to use scissors if that's easier for you. You can use an X-Acto knife, and if you have it at home, you can also use a paper cutter. So there's many ways to finalize this. We're gonna look at another example, an example that isn't so square. But let's say we had a composition that was wider than it is tall. Notice that I've kept with that rule of thirds. Now this isn't exact, right? This is a little smaller than this and a little smaller than this, but you get the idea. We're applying 1 unit to our composition and then adding in more units around it to give that white space and our composition room to breathe. And in the end, we were going to cut on this line all the way around, and that would be our final composition. Now, regarding this design, I wanted to point something out, and I actually pointed it out during our lesson that, the concept of global warming is a concept that you've heard many times, I'm sure, in every part of your lifetime. But I wanted to throw something else out at you to make our concept a little bit more than it actually is, and not make it seem so cliche or trite or boring. And that is the use of wordplay. In this case, I had the idea of bolding the word war in warming and keeping thin, M-I-N-G, and that very much changes the concept to it being about global warming, yes, but it's also emphasizing the war issue within global warming. So you could read it and understand it that it's a war on global warming, or it's a war on the issues of global warming, or it's actually talking about the war between people and global war and global warfare. So just by doing this one simple thing, bold and thin, we've changed the concept entirely, and we've made our design more rich with concept. Now, these two designs are particular sizes, and I want you to know that there is no standard size or dimension for your work. Now, of course, we need to keep it small enough so we can actually put it on our paper, but these are a little small for my finished work. I'd probably make them a little bit bigger for my design, but I'd still create them so they could fit on our cardstock paper. I also wanted to let you know that there are several students, and I think I showed some examples of them, that are actually using pretty complex rules of design, in this case, Gestalt techniques of continuity and closure. I think Natalie had an example with her Generation Y design, which was really excellent. So keep this in mind and practice at least 2 of these compositions, including WhiteSpace. Let's try to expose our design to maybe some wordplay and really try to make your design more rich with concept. Okay, guys, have fun, work hard, be safe, take care.